and welcome to this very special episode of The Good Enough Human with a focus on Men's Health Week, which comes up from the 14th to the 21st of June. And this year, the focus is on men's mental health, which is incredibly important, possibly more now than ever after the challenges that we've all faced through this past year of living and working through a pandemic. I'm Angela Ferguson, and my co-host for this episode is Paul Crofts. And we have two very special guests this week. We have Chester and North Wales-based singer-songwriter and health practitioner Gareth Howatson. And we also have mental health campaigner Dan Rowe, who has set up a branch in Manchester of the Andy's Man Club charity, which supports men in relation to their mental health, with a focus on peer support. Incredibly important work. So we're going to kick off with talking to Gareth Howatson, and then we're going to go and join Dan shortly. Now, before we chat to Gareth and Dan, we must give you a trigger warning here that obviously with the nature of men's mental health, there will be some topics discussed, including suicide. So if this is a trigger for you, then please do switch off now. Otherwise, please listen in, and please do bear in mind that there are organisations out there like the Samaritans who are there to support you. For example, the Samaritans run a helpline which you can call free day or night. And the number to call is 116123. That's 116123. Free day or night. And there's also an email that you can use to contact Samaritans, which is joe@samaritans.org. That's Joe, J-O, @samaritans.org. Thank you for listening to the Good Enough Human show here on Circulate Radio. Now we go to our interview with Gareth Howatson.
Now, joining us for this part of the programme, we're delighted to welcome back onto the Good Enough Human podcast our good friend Gareth Howatson, who is here to talk a little bit about Men's Health Week, which runs from the 14th to the 21st of June. Hi Gaz, how are you? How's things?
Hi Paul, thank you so much for having me back. I'm okay, thank you. And hello Angela.
Hi.
Yeah, I'm delighted to be back, so thank you so much. And things are going really well now that it's sunny outside, so I think we're all in good spirits, aren't we?
Oh, it's gorgeous, isn't it? So good to see the sun.
Yeah, it makes a difference.
It does.
Absolutely, it certainly does. The weather's improved, and I think it makes everybody feel so much better, doesn't it? Absolutely, absolutely. Guys, I believe part of your working life is based around being a health practitioner. Could you tell us a little bit about your role and how that sort of fits with sort of well-being?
Yeah, of course. It's a job that's in such demand at the moment as well. In this post-COVID world, or shall we say interim post-COVID, fingers crossed. But yeah, working as sort of a health improvement practitioner over at the council in Warrington is something that is, it's good to work in an area that I'm passionate about. And the health region itself, you're looking at Men's Health Week, it obviously covers your kind of physical health aspects and then also your mental health aspects. I think there's a focus this year on mental health, so there has been a lot about that. We've definitely been working on campaigns and trying to just sort of promote it, raise that awareness really in the local community. But yeah, overall, there's a lot of things that go into that kind of role. But if we focus on the Men's Health Week, then there's plenty that we can get into, I'm sure.
Absolutely, I'm sure there is. It's become an increasingly big topic, hasn't it? Especially as you say during the last year with lockdown and all the sort of problems that's brought with it for people, just isolation and job insecurity and all those things. It's been a great strain on many people for sure. I mean, how have you found the whole lockdown experience?
It's funny. I mean, I know I was kind of waiting for things to open up for so long. It was almost like that was going to be kind of like the fix for me in a weird way. Like I was like almost holding on for that. And talking about sort of mental health in general, I know there is a sort of stereotype out there that men maybe don't like kind of talking about it as openly as maybe women do. Now, I know that's not the case for everybody, but if we focus on that, then I'm probably a prime example of that throughout this the latest lockdown, the one during the winter. It's maybe at the time I probably wouldn't be telling friends how I was feeling. I was thinking I'll just hold on until it comes out, and once we come out of it, I'll be back to normal again. But it's not quite as easy as that. You kind of bottle up those emotions for a long time, and that's sometimes that can work, but a lot of times it can't. And for me personally, like, I probably did go through a few dips in the winter that were uncharacteristic for me. And I think that's the word uncharacteristic is really important to note. Because if you notice that something's different in you, then you can tell. And my first instinct was to ignore it. I would almost sort of push it to the side a little bit. In hindsight, when I look back now to the feeling, how I feel now and to how I felt then, I probably was maybe slightly depressed to a mild state in certain periods of time. Maybe not every day, but there were periods of time where it was tough, So coming into this coming out of lockdown now is a good thing, because as I mentioned before, it's nice and sunny and it's lovely and I'm doing things and I'm sociable again. But it's not been as easy as just stepping back into the community, and being sociable with people. If I bump into people, I don't know, when I'm walking around the market in town, or I'm walking around town and I'm in a closed inside area, then it's weird how I put my guard up now. And I know that's because we've got safety in our heads, but it's more from a social aspect as well. It's just scary to kind of be letting back into the community, but it's also exciting. So to kind of sum up your question short, in a short way, it's just mixed feelings at the moment, and I'm happy to be open about that now. But it's funny how maybe during the lockdown itself, it would take me a while to open up about that.
Yes, sure. I mean, I must admit, I had a wobble a couple of weeks ago, and I talk about this quite openly. I was invited out to a social occasion with some friends and people that I knew, and a couple of people that I didn't know. And I had a real sort of panic about the whole thing, thinking, oh, we're going to be inside a restaurant, there's going to be other people there. And I had to in the end pull out, because it just didn't feel at that point, didn't feel safe. Something I hadn't done for quite a long time. I'd been out with some friends who I know, and that's fine, a very small group of us who I'm comfortable with being around. Absolutely no problem with that. But just the thought of going to a restaurant, again, a place I've been to umpteen times before, and thinking, this is too soon. It's not, and it just didn't feel safe at all, which is silly. You can think of that, it's a stupid reaction, but actually that's how I felt. And it was strong enough to make me feel, I can't do this. I just have to take a step back. And once I'd actually pulled out and made my apologies and explained why, I felt so much better, isn't it? It's funny, isn't it? And yet, pre-pandemic, I would have just gone, and it wouldn't have been a problem. It would have been. I was so pleased, and the thing that got me was I was so pleased to be invited as well, and I felt awful having to say I can't do this, because it just didn't feel safe, at all. Have you found similar things, Angela, when you've been out and about?
Oh gosh, yes. It feels quite overwhelming at times. I found myself sort of almost getting worked up, having this little debate in my head about, I should be out in the centre of Chester today. I should be by the river. And then part of me thinks, oh no, it might be a bit busy. I'm not sure I'm completely comfortable with the idea of anything like that now. And it's all these feelings swirling round that, I saw something on Twitter the other day by the psychologist Philippa Perry, talking about how we need to go easy on ourselves because we're not used to using those social muscles. And she gave this fascinating analogy of fruit flies, bizarrely, when they've been separated from their fellow fruit flies for a while, they will, before going back into the fold, hover on the outside, on the outskirts, to watch and observe and ease their way back in. And it was such a fascinating analogy that we're all like little fruit flies, I guess, and we need to take our time and do it at our own pace to readjust and get back into that safely. Because we're still going through a pandemic, so it's all I can say is that I'm so glad to hear us having this conversation and more people talking about it and sharing how we feel, which is so important, isn't it?
It is. And just to develop on that, if I can, the first thing that's been going through my head as we've all been talking is, how open we are about those feelings, like you were saying, Angela and Paul. When we're on the topic of mental health and people having a reluctancy to talk about it and to open up about their feelings, because we're all in the same boat right now because of COVID. we all almost then have something that we can relate to each other because we know the other person's going through it. So we are quite happy to talk about our feelings about going back into the community post-COVID, or how we felt during lockdown. Now, that's normal because I'm happy to talk to you about it, Paul. I'm happy to talk to you about it, Angela, because we're both going through the same thing, But isn't it funny how, from a mental health perspective, pre-COVID, we would never talk about feelings that were relating to our mental health because we were under the impression that maybe the other person isn't going through that. But to almost normalize it in a sense, one thing COVID has taught us from a positive point of view is that actually pre-COVID, we were all going through our own mental health. Maybe I wouldn't say battles because some people have it mildly, some people have it more extreme, but we were reluctant to talk about it before. And I hope one thing that we've learned about this is we're all always in the same boat, COVID or not, we are. So we should be open to talk about it under any circumstance,
Yeah, that's well said. So well said. It's extraordinary times, and like you say, for something else positive to come out of that, this really difficult period in time, that's got to be a good step forward, that we're more open, we're more comfortable having these conversations, because it's so important, isn't it, to ask for support, to speak out.
I 100% absolutely agree with what you just said there, Angela. I mean, I'm just hearing some people in work today talking about the weekend and how busy it was in Chester, for example, and how they felt they didn't want to go in, or they went into town, but they were in and out because it just didn't feel safe and comfortable. And somebody today was talking about, again, another social event they'd been invited to, and they just said for them, it's too soon to be mixing with a lot of people. And I think that's true for so many people at the moment. You're right, Gaz, we are all in the same boat, and so many people are saying the same things about how they're not quite ready yet to make that sort of push to what otherwise would be quite normal, in any other times.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more.
And we should say as well, Gareth, that one of the things we talked about when you last came on the podcast was the song you wrote that had themes of mental health as well. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, that's very pertinent, isn't it? This past year of all years. So is that something that you might explore again in future, given that everything we're going through, do you think, with your music?
Yeah. Yeah, I suppose for those of them who are sort of joining the podcast today, maybe then, yeah, that is one of my hobbies on the side. And just to tie it in with things, like one note on that, I think is, and it's kind of part of all that 5 ways to wellbeing that they're going to be concentrating on in the Men's Health Week coming up, is discovery and creativity, and how you should have an outlet in that sense. So you should have something on the side, which is maybe non-related to work or something like that you enjoy. So it could be painting, it could be writing songs, it could be going to a local choir, whatever it is, for me, it's music, and I am classing myself, I suppose, as a part-time musician on the side. But yeah, talking about the single Snakes, which was kind of written pre-COVID, it's really weird that I almost wrote that song because I wasn't able to talk to people about that situation before writing the song. That was my way of getting it out to people. So then people would listen to it and ask, well, I didn't know that was something that was going on with you and your friends. And now, to answer your question, Angela, I've still got some songs ready to sort of release on the album that are more focused around that sort of scene, because it's an important part of my life and I still feel like I've got more to say about it, but it's kind of a bit more of an open book this time, because sometimes you can hide when you're writing your songs and you can choose what to say and what not to say, but it just shows you the development of when I wrote Snakes in 2018 and when I'm writing songs currently, about how much more open I am in those songs that I'm writing currently, because you're almost not afraid to talk about it. But it's funny, even in the space of 3 years, I almost felt like I couldn't talk about it back then. So we're making waves, basically, with how open we are about talking about mental health and how we all kind of the way that we do feel, and trying to normalize it as best as we can.
Gosh. And the point you make about finding something that works for you as well is incredible. And as we say, that is all part of Men's Health Week, where they're encouraging people to do the Can Do Challenge, where there are different activities and suggestions for every day of the week. For example, I mean, we'll share details on our socials and website, but things like Connect. On a Monday, there'll be the hashtag Connect Monday, where you're encouraged to connect with other people, maybe call an old friend you haven't seen since before lockdown. Discover on a Thursday, learn something new, read a book you haven't read before, or like you do, Gareth, go find a creative outlet like your music and your writing. I mean, for me, it's been a bit of a media geek and doing things like podcasting and writing and theatre. So it is finding what that thing that sort of you focus in on and you almost forget everything else. It's so important, isn't it?
Oh, like it's from like a clinical point of view, it's important. Like cognitively, the way our brains react to that is just the positive reactions that you get is amazing. And it's almost like when you exercise and you release those endorphins and you genuinely do feel better afterwards. It's really weird, actually. Like I've been more conscious about my feelings after exercise, and when it's almost strange how much your body actually changes. It's almost the same as getting a caffeine kick. Like you can actually see the physiological change in your body and how you feel. But with the creative outlets, the same thing. Being able to paint, being able to explore, and just express yourself. So that's what we're here. Not to get too philosophical with you both, but the whole reason we're here on this earth is to basically enjoy the time that we have. So why are we not doing that? We're so like we're capable of so much. Why not express ourselves in that way? So I just don't think we should hold back in that sense. So if anybody's got anything that they're thinking of doing and they're not doing, just do it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Brilliant advice. I love that. Absolutely love that.
absolutely. I
Not give
think
it to
there's a
lose.
lot. There's a lot to be said for that, and I know from personal experience that a big part of me not doing stuff is anxiety, and it's the fear of I won't be able I won't be able to do it. I won't be any good at it. I'll make a mess of it. People think I'm being silly. I'll show myself up. I can't do it. No, I can't possibly do it. That's not me. But actually, yeah, give it a go. You might enjoy it. You might be good at it even, and it could be open up a whole new outlook for you, a new hobby, a new interest, whatever. Meet some new people. There's
Yeah.
nothing to lose really. Just try, and if you don't like it, well, at least you've given it your best shot, and you can't say fairer than that really. So yeah, I absolutely get that where you're coming from, and
I
being
agree.
creative, yeah, is just opens up. Yeah, it gives you something to focus on, makes you more relaxed, and it gives you a focus away from work and away from sort of all the pressures that we put ourselves under every day. So
Mm.
absolutely, I couldn't agree more.
I,
Yeah.
I, God, that was such an important point though, Paul, as well, in the sense of like, what's the worst that could happen? In the sense of like, the best thing I always say to myself is like, people surprise you. People always react differently to how you think they're going to react, because we're such self-critics, and we're always our biggest judgment is ourselves. So if we think people can react a certain way, I can almost guarantee you they won't. We're all nicer than we think. So if you go in with the hope of just doing it for yourself, then people will surprise you, and they might even join you on that process as well. So why not give it a go?
Brilliant advice. I feel uplifted by our discussion. So
Good.
so glad we're having this chat as part of looking at this hugely important topic, because I'm the first to say I'm certainly not an expert, but I'm looking at the Men's Health Forum just briefly now while we speak, and a strapline at the top of the website is 1 man in 5 dies before the age of 65. Together we can change that through things like Men's Health Week and the Can Do Challenge. It's just hugely important, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I know it's sometimes the best way to get to kind of like get the message across is with sort of heavy statistics, and I'm kind of like frightened sometimes by some of them, so it almost gives me a bit of a kick to look after myself. So if that's a good enough reason to get out, and you want to say to yourself, do you know what, maybe I want to give myself a chance of sort of having a full and healthy life, then that's great. But just enjoy yourselves, isn't it? Find whatever, because I think I don't want to get too much into it, but I think the biggest problem for me, especially, and it could be the same for other people out there, but is finding motivations to do things. Paul mentioned before about the anxieties around sort of exploring some creative outlets and stuff, but it could be the same for someone maybe wanting to look after their physical health. What's kind of their motivator and what's stopping them from doing that? There's obviously, it's not as easy as just stepping out the door, so there are complexities at all times, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't try. We should at least small steps and just find that process, whatever it is. And if statistics get you out the door, then I guess that's okay. But at the end of the day, do it for yourself,
Absolutely, baby steps, reaching out, asking for support. Because if you're anything like us, if anyone were to say to us, "Oh, I'm feeling a bit flat today," or you want to be there for them, don't you? You want to support them, and there are so many of us out there who, if you're listening to this now, feeling flat, feeling like you're really struggling, then please reach out, speak out, and ask for help. People will be so happy to support you, and you are not alone. Always remember that. So it's if nothing else, if we take nothing else away from this podcast today, please remember that there are so many good people out here in the world who care about you, and you matter, and we are rooting for you. So yeah, that was very philosophical, wasn't it? But there we go.
Oh, it's lovely. No, it's good. You're absolutely spot on. We're all stronger than we think.
Yeah.
That's very, very true. And I think what you just said, Angela, is you've hit the nail on the head. People shouldn't be afraid to speak out. There is still an awful stigma around mental health and sort of self-care, and just making sure that actually you feel okay. There's this whole thing of it's okay not to be okay. But yeah, I've found over the last couple of years that I'm more aware now of my sort of well-being, if you like, and I sort of recognise when I'm not starting not to feel all right, and I take steps to sort of adjust that, so I don't, you sort of try and stop it before it gets any worse, because that's the downward slope then, isn't it? And you will always find there are people out there who will help you and will listen to your problems, and that's half the battle. So yeah, don't I would say to anybody, don't bottle it up. Don't do what I did for so long. Talk to somebody, and you will get there. There's always help.
Yeah.
Gareth, it's been absolutely lovely to have you back with us on the show again. It's been so insightful and really good to have your thoughts on the whole issue of men's health, particularly as we come up to Men's Health Awareness Week. Is there anything that you would like to just to add to round off this part of the show in terms of sort of pointers for awareness and sort of self-care? What would you sort of say is the most important thing to think about?
I suppose it's hard to know on the spot, but I think first and foremost, I think the easiest thing to do is to speak from my experience. If we're talking about Men's Health Week in particular, then I know what it's like to not talk about things. I know exactly what it's like to not reach out, and our minds are so funny, and they play games with us. It's almost like I have two people living in my head, and when I'm in a negative state of mind, which is completely fine because that happens all the time, and it will carry on happening until I'm grey and old, hopefully. But the point is sometimes I can almost convince myself that I will be fine to do this myself. I'll be fine to get through it myself. And then I've got another part of me sort of hinting, but it's a quieter voice almost saying, maybe you should just speak to someone about it. Just go with your instinct. Listen to that thing that is the right thing to do, and just reach out. And it sounds like I don't want to sound patronizing at all by saying this, because it's not just as easy as that, because we've all been there, and there's probably still things that I should talk about and I haven't talked about. Okay, so it's not like I've gone ahead and got it all off my chest. Like, we've all still got a number of things that we all want to get out, but everyone's fighting their own little battles, so don't think you're alone for a start. And as I mentioned before, when people surprise you, you'll surprise yourself, guaranteed. When you come out the other end, you will guaranteed surprise yourself, and you're capable for much more than that. And at the end of the day, we deserve it. So just a bit of self-care, and do your research. There's nothing wrong with doing that. It's almost, I don't want to go on too long, but I know it's scary to explore that feeling, but that's the best thing you can do, because it's nowhere near as bad as you think it's going to be. Explore it, research it, and just find out what you can do with those small steps, one thing a day, and it'll get better. But like, big pointers for me personally, like, find out what you love doing, whether it's something creative, get involved in the social communities in your area, speak to people who are going through a similar kind of thing, speak to your mates, speak to your family, but Exercise is big as well, like don't be afraid of that. It's as simple as going outside for a walk, get in touch with nature. We could talk about that for hours on end, but seriously, sounds really hippie, but go outside, feel the leaves, feel the grass. Trust me, it works. But yeah, I don't want to go on for too long, but I hope that's okay. But that's my takeaway message.
That's brilliant. Thank you
Brilliant.
so much. It's been great to have you back with us. It really has, and hopefully we'll be able to have you on the show on another occasion, Gaz. Thank you so much indeed.
Yeah,
You're
thank
welcome.
you
Thank
so
you
much,
so much for having
Gaz.
me.
Thank you.
You're okay, honestly. Thank you so much.
Okay, so now we are joined by mental health campaigner Dan Rowe, who was involved in setting up the Manchester branch of the charity Andy's Man Club, which, as I mentioned earlier, provides a crucial role across the country in providing peer support for men aged 18 and over to meet others and to get talking about issues to do with their mental health in order to help them. So thank you so much for joining us, Dan, and welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Angela. It's great to be on.
Hi, Dan. It's lovely to have you with us for this podcast. Thank you so much for agreeing to be a guest with us today. It's great to have you. And what I would like to ask you, if I may, is perhaps you can tell us a little bit about Andy's Man Club and how you become involved with the charity.
Absolutely. So Andy's Man Club is just about to turn 5 years old. So it originates in the West Yorkshire town of Halifax. And 5 years ago, a young guy at the age of 23 called Andy Roberts sadly took the option to tragically take his own life. There were no outward signs from friends and family that were noticed, and it came completely out of the blue and as a big shock, as you can imagine. And his brother-in-law, who's a guy called Luke Ambler, at the time was a professional rugby league player playing for Halifax in the local town. He approached Andy's mum at a family wedding to say we really want to. He was really keen to try and start something that would help guys out there, and strangely enough, his focus was really on to try and support families in the longer run, because he didn't want any other family to go through what they were currently going through. So they set out with this aim of starting a coffee club for guys to just somewhere to go and chat, so that nobody felt that they needed to get to the stage that Andy got, and know that there was support there. Originally, the plan was within 5 years they'd have 10 clubs. And I'm kind of really excited to kind of announce Monday just gone, we open our 50th club within 5 years. So we're as far north as Dundee, we're as far south as Plymouth, and pretty much sprinkled around everywhere in between. I've had the pleasure of opening 2 clubs for them now. So I opened the Manchester City Centre club, that was 2.5 years ago, and then at the start of this year we got Altrincham opened as well.
That's incredible. The growth in the number of clubs that you now have up and down the country, that just tells me that the charity is doing such an important and vital job. And obviously, the need for men particularly to be able to open up and to talk to people about their feelings and any difficulties they might have. The need is obviously clearly there. What do you find the feedback you get from people who come to the clubs, and the sort of difference that makes to them, sort of the stories that they tell, and obviously it must make a huge difference them being able to come and speak to people like yourself?
Yeah, I mean, look, for guys, it's long been probably generational, isn't it? That we've all been brought up to keep our feelings to ourselves, to be the strong protector, provider, that kind of image of what is completely wrapped up within the male identity. So the idea of talking about how we feel, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent, is a little bit alien to a lot of us. Certainly, I suppose over a certain age, and at 39, I include myself in that age bracket as well. I find it very strange now. when you look at Andy's Man Club and the power that it has within each group, is the key aspect to it is anyone that struggles with a mental health issue, and I know this from my own personal experience, is you very quickly feel very isolated and feel very alone, and you feel that what you're going through is completely unique and nobody else would understand that. Now, imagine an opportunity in a space where on a Monday night between 7 and 9, you go and meet complete strangers, guys that you've never met before. You have no idea their backstory. You have no idea what they're currently going through, from every walk of life, every age demographic. You have to be 18 to walk through the door, but we get 18-year-olds the same way we get 75-year-olds through the door. And imagine going into a room completely uncomfortable with that situation, and then straight away knowing that A, you won't be judged for anything that you say, which is so important, but B, you meet people and you meet guys there that are going through exactly what you're going through. And straight away, you don't feel alone. You feel like, actually, I'm part of a community. And the aim of Andy's Man Club of every Monday night is that guys leave the room feeling better than when they arrived. I remember the first time I went, which is just over 3 years ago, went through the door completely. It was a last resort for me. It was effectively, I needed to do that to kind of save my life. I'd the Saturday before, I'd made my third attempt at my own life, and was really in a desperate situation. And going through the door was the hardest thing in the world, literally the hardest thing I've ever done. But then within 5 minutes, somebody talking who I'd never met before, talking about how his week had been, completely, I just related to everything that he was talking about. But he'd been going for 3 months, so he was ahead of me on my journey. So straight away, it gave me hope that actually, if I keep coming back to this place, he's got a smile on his face. I can't remember last time that I smiled and meant it. So it's just this kind of really powerful, organic environment where no matter what your background, no matter what your issues, you'll find someone that you relate to. And that's really, really powerful for a lot of our guys.
Gosh, that is incredibly powerful. And I know Paul and I both individually had a look at the video on the Andy's Man Club website with the testimonials. The difference that it can make to these men's lives is just blew us away. Incredible. I just thank goodness we've got organisations like Andy's Man Club all across the country. And it sounds like I mean, I know that we've checked and there isn't one really close to us. I just wondered whether, in theory, if somebody were to be listening to this and think, oh, I quite fancy setting one up, is that quite straightforward? Can that be done?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not sure about how straightforward it is, first and foremost. So there's a couple of key aspects to that. Andy's Man Club has got a very defined culture of what it's about. And one of the things that makes it work is to become what we class as a facilitator of a group. So just to kind of help out, to help kind of run it. You are no different as a facilitator than someone that walks through the door for the first time. You still use the club as an individual. So to become a facilitator, and certainly to set up a new club, we always like at least sort of, you have to have kind of 2 or 3 people involved, 2 or 3 guys involved first and foremost. But also you have to have attended an Andy's Man Club. You have to understand what the power of the club is about, to have used it to go on your journey. Every facilitator within every Andy's Man Club across the UK started off by walking through the door for the first time. And that is, again, kind of one of the you buy into what it's about. So we're always looking at new clubs, and we have a project officer whose job, solely full-time job, is to open new clubs. So absolutely, I've worked with a couple of people who have looked into setting a club up within the kind of North Wales, Chester region.
Oh wow!
And I know that the club would be really, really keen. I'm encouraging them to move on from Yorkshire and come on this side of the hill and things along those lines. So the Northwest is definitely a target area to increase that. But there is a bit of a process that we need to go through.
Of course. Oh, that's wonderful to hear. Will you update us if you hear anything about that? That sounds wonderful.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. And Can I also mention, it seems fitting that I noticed that you've also been involved in setting up a peer support group that's connected to Wrexham Football Club, Dragon Chat.
Absolutely.
Is that still going? Is that, because that sounds really exciting?
Yeah, definitely. And I'm conscious that you're very much Chester based.
Oh no,
so
I'm born in Wrexham, brought up in North Wales, so you know, in both
Angela,
camps.
outstanding. The music to my ears. I'm a diehard Wrexham fan. First and foremost. So yeah, look, I was really privileged back before obviously the takeover happened. I was approached by the communities director of the Wrexham Supporters Trust, a chap called Steve Lloyd, who I've known for 30 years, to be honest with you, best part of 30 years. And he's I don't know whether you can class it as a trade, but he's a mental health nurse anyway, but through profession. And he's I've kept in touch with him through the years, and he's seen the stuff that we've done with Andy's Man Club, and it was always his aim and his kind of dream to combine the passion of Wrexham Football Club with supporting the local community. And one of the things that the under the ownership of the fans that was really a driving force at Wrexham was trying to engage with the community, but trying to really support the community with things like the disability awareness stuff that they do, their autism friendly stadiums and all this kind of work that they did, and part of it was to set up a men's mental health group. So yeah, he got in touch and asked whether or not I'd give him a hand. So I worked really closely with them to get that set up. It operates every Thursday night from 7 till 8:30. It's 90 minutes, just like a game of football. And at the moment it's operated through online through Zoom to kind of help people, obviously with what we've gone through. Whether that changes, we'll kind of wait and see. We're hoping that it'll be based then at the football stadium, and it's a great opportunity again just for the guys in the local community to jump on, have a chat, meet like-minded people. There's a lot of Wrexham fans on there, as you would imagine. So we kind of share. There's a lot of sharing of memories around Wrexham, and what we'll see going forward. Again, it's about creating that community, just like Andy's Man Club, is where you create that community, and that really supports people going forward. We'll have regular get-togethers on with Dragon Chat when we can actually go back and watch football again, so people can meet up as well.
Wow, that sounds incredible. And I'm just thinking as well, would there be any chance of a certain Mr. Reynolds, because he's an advocate about mental health, isn't he? Coming in, giving you a bit of support, a word of encouragement. How cool would that be?
That would be it'd make for a fairly interesting meeting, and I would very much imagine our numbers might go up that evening if he was to attend. Look, from all accounts, I'm not as involved on the day-to-day with Dragon Chat as I am with Andy's Man Club, but sure. From all accounts, the word that's come through from Humphrey Kerr, who's obviously one of the directors at the football club now, and they're very supportive of what we're doing to support the local community. So, wow. Who's to say that Ryan and Rob don't turn up for a meeting at one point? And Ryan, as you said there, Ryan spoke very openly during Mental Health Awareness Week about his own battles with anxiety and things like that. So if he ever needs a place to talk, then use your football club, Ryan. We're here for you.
There you go, Ryan. If you're listening, there's your invite. No pressure. Right. Put you on the spot there, Dan.
No worries.
I'm just astounded. I'll shut up and let Paul speak in a moment, but I'm just flabbergasted with what you do. It's incredible. Yeah, incredible. Paul.
It is absolutely amazing. I'm just absolutely in awe of the sort of energy that you've got and the passion you've got for making a difference in people's lives. It's incredible, and all power to you, Dan. It's wonderful stuff. I guess particularly what I was going to ask you, particularly pertaining to the football club and the meetings that you have there. Do you still think there's a huge stigma, particularly in a male environment, about opening up about mental health, particularly in that sort of masculine football sort of? It's quite lads environment. Do you think men still find it quite difficult?
Yeah, look, I think guys on the whole, I think there's a fear attached to it. Stigma. There's obviously the stigma of the way that we've all been brought up, but there's a fear of things like embarrassment. People don't want to be guys don't want to be a burden. They want to be seen as the strong, like I said, provider and protector with regards to our identity. But what I know and through experience is you provide the right environment and every guy will talk. It's about finding what that environment is for each individual. Look, at Andy's Man Club helps. We see between 800 and 1,000 guys on a weekly basis come through the door. And for those guys, I can tell you part of the challenge is getting them to shut up, never mind opening up and talking. But we're just scratching the surface with that. We know that we're just scratching the surface. We know, as you mentioned earlier, that the issues are there and guys are experiencing issues, and we know that suicide rates are increasing, and more needs to be done. And we really want an Andy's Man Club in every town and city in the UK supporting our male population. We're giving them that place to kind of go and open up. But it's just finding different avenues in which we can reach out. Sport, we're heavily linked with sport. Like I said, the founder, Luke Ambler, was a professional rugby league player when he started this club. So we're wrapped up within sport. What we are finding is actually sports clubs are starting to come to us. The Altrincham branch that I run and set up is based at the football club. Exeter's based at the football club. Halifax, where it started, was originally based at the football club. Hartlepool was based at the football club. Southend, one of the new clubs, is based at the football club. Preston is now based at the football club. And these are football clubs coming to us because they recognise the importance of the environment that guys find. But not only is it, and I'm not sure football is the most macho of environments, certainly looking at the players on the pitch a lot of the time and the amount that they're rolling around nowadays. However, it's where guys congregate, isn't it? It's where a lot of guys socialize. So it's ideal. It's absolutely perfect to almost put it in their face, to be honest with you. We were really privileged at Altrincham. We were invited at a game against Yeovil Town. Yeovil Town's captain in February, I think it was, sadly took his own life. So they donated the game, Altrincham versus Yeovil, to be for Andy's Man Club to raise awareness of men's mental health. And it was also the first time that Altrincham had fans back in the ground as well. So there was 900 fans in the ground, and we had people at every gate handing out leaflets. And the feedback that the guys got just handing out leaflets was incredible. So I don't believe there's always one or two that are going to sort of walk away or give you, maybe think, oh, what a load of rubbish this is. But 900 people came in, took a leaflet, thanked us for what we were doing. And we then saw more people come to the session on the Monday because they'd been at the ground and they'd seen what it was about. So it's absolutely perfect sporting environment. It's perfect to raise awareness.
Wow, that is so wonderful to hear. And it sounds from what you just said that there is actually now hopefully a sea change in people's attitudes as well, which is so important. And the work you're doing is obviously helping to drive that forward. So that's absolutely wonderful. That really is good to hear. I know from experience a colleague of mine a few years ago sadly took his own life, and we had no one in work had any indication that there was anything wrong with that particular colleague at all. So it was a complete and utter shock when that happened. So, and you just can't help think that had they had somebody perhaps they felt they could confided in at the time, it may not have happened. It may have prevented him from doing what he ultimately did. So all power to you and the guys who are running Andy's Man Club. It's just incredible. It really is good to hear the positive attitude, the positive change and the attitude that it's now having. It's brilliant.
Yeah, I mean, I do need to stress I'm a very, very small cog in a large wheel here. When we talk about Andy's Man Club, we have so many dedicated. I'm a volunteer, and we have so many dedicated volunteers. We're probably about 250 volunteers across the charity, as well as our head office that do do so much work in terms of being able to provide that support, and it's a privilege to kind of be in there, and getting the awareness out there is great. But I think we're almost at a tipping point. I think there's almost too much awareness and not enough people wanting to signpost to places like Andy's Man Club. I see it, and I make no kind of excuses. Z-list celebrities put in, my DMs are always open, and it's so dangerous to do that, because I'm sorry, if I message you at 3 o'clock in the morning saying I'm suicidal and you don't respond to that, it's just no. Like virtue signaling, don't do it. You're doing that to make yourself look better, instead of doing that, saying, if anyone needs to talk, here's Samaritan's number. And it's so important that with comes awareness, there's a huge amount of responsibility. Too many people are spreading awareness about mental health. There's never been more mental health awareness, but there's never been, I think, a lack of actual signposting to groups like Andy's Man Club, and places where, or the Samaritans or Calm Zone. There's loads out there, but it's really, really important that people stop doing it to make themselves look good on social media and start doing it and to actually provide help for people. Provide a solution. Don't do it because it's Mental Health Awareness Week. Don't do it because it's Men's Health Week and we're all talking about men's mental health, because it'll, for your 500 followers, that you'll look like a hero. I'm sorry, it's nonsense. Start directing people to where they can actually get help. That's what we need within social media. And it's so important that people take that on board and actually do something with it to signpost.
Yeah, really, really appreciate your advice there, Dan. In the interest of transparency as well, I've been quite open. I know I'm not a man for the purposes of Men's Health Week, but I've been quite open about having had postnatal depression and anxiety and depression. And I think I've got to the stage in life where I'm 50 now, and I've accepted that it comes and goes, and I just need to be mindful of it and how to cope with it, and things like counselling in the past. So just thought I wanted to share that in the interest of transparency, that, you know, so many of us go through these experiences. But like you say, the crucial thing is to signpost people to the right places for support, like Andy's Man Club and Samaritans and Calm Zone. I mean, we feel passionately about that, to try and make a difference in that small way of spreading the word through the likes of the podcast and the radio show. So, I mean, are there any other particular bits of advice that you might give to anyone listening who might be struggling and not know where to turn or what to do?
Yeah, I think the biggest, I suppose the biggest, a couple of things that I work with my clients from a business point of view when talking about kind of mental health. And there's a couple of things that I do personally. So I think it's really important that we understand that what works for me might not work for you, Angela, might not work for you, Paul. It's about finding our own solutions. And I think that's kind of really important. But for me, a couple of things. When I get myself into if I have a kind of real episode of struggle, if you like, and that's kind of how I classify it. I'm not a huge fan of labels, so I kind of, that's how I classify when I'm going through a tough time. My mind works at like 1,000,000 miles an hour, and I really struggle to kind of grasp my thoughts and then grasp actually how I'm feeling. So in an ideal world, I sit down with a piece of paper and I draw 3 circles. So the center circle, which is the smallest, is things that I can change. So things that I can change without anybody else's help. So that's what's in my control. The next circle is things that I can influence. So I can have an influence on it, but I need someone else to help with regards to whatever that is, to be able to influence that change that I think is needed. And then the third circle, which is the biggest circle, is things that I can't control and I can't influence. Effectively, it's just noise. I can't do anything about it, so I'm not worrying about it. And I get everything out of my head onto a piece of paper there. And then that's my to-do list. The top of my to-do list is that center circle. What can I change now? What can I control? The second bit, what can I start to influence? So who do I need to then start to influence to actually make that improvement? The rest of it, I've just got it out of my head and I've moved on from it. So that's kind of one of the things that I've done. And at Andy's Man Club, we ask a question every week. This is the kind of second thing that I focus on quite a lot. We ask a question every week, and it's the most important question of the night, in my opinion. It's name one positive from your week. So I'm a huge fan of practicing gratitude. So every night at 9:30, I'll get a message up on my thing. I use an app called 3 Good Things, and I write 3 things that have gone well that day. Now, when I first started going to Andy's Man Club, I could not pick, and I really struggled to come up with one thing that went well in a week. Now I find it really, really easy, generally speaking, to come up with 3 things that went well that day. And that's because I'm looking for it. And that's through consistency. So if you're listening to this and you're struggling, you can't see a way out of it, by focusing on the end goal, that's really overwhelming, I find. But focus on, write down every single day one thing that's gone well that day. Or you can do it the other way. When you wake up, what's one thing that you're grateful for? And it's about taking those kind of baby steps. And if you can continue to take that baby steps, you'll hit the end goal probably before you even realize it. And that the kind of really worked well for me. So practicing gratitude, I'm a huge fan of. It's what I run a mental health and wellbeing training company now, and it's everything is around gratitude. And even the image of my business is the international symbol for gratitude as well.
Oh, wow. So this is a huge part of your life then, helping people through the charity and through your business and day to day. And goodness me, you've a very busy man.
Yeah, look, it's weird, isn't it? Like, it's taken me till I was 36 years old to find something that I was really passionate about, like truly kind of passionate. And I don't necessarily believe the saying of if you're passionate about something, if you love what you do, you don't work a day in the life. Like, it's still hard sometimes. Of course it is. Like, days can be tough, but it's what I believe on. It's interesting what you said before, Angela, and I appreciate you kind of being honest about the postnatal depression. That's where my issues with my mental health started. I had postnatal depression as a dad, and when you introduced me as a mental health campaigner, it's all around fathers' mental health. So we had a chat before we started about I've got a new podcast starting a week on the 21st, and it's called the How You Dad podcast, and it's about fathers' mental health and the importance of dads in the process, and the importance of actually about how we can support dads better and support the whole family better to improve the dad's life, the mum's life, and the kids' lives as well. It's so important that we provide that family first approach.
Oh, that sounds incredible. So will you share a link with us to that, Dan, and we can share that as well? Yeah, that sounds incredibly useful and helpful. Gosh. And I'm very conscious that we could talk to you for hours. There's so much important stuff, but we've only got a limited time span. Is there anything that you would like to add to what you've said during our chat?
I just think if like I said, if you're listening and you're affected by anything that's been we've kind of talked about, then like you guys have done in preparation and prep work, check out Andy's Man Club, which is andysmanclub.co.uk. They're across all the social medias. Each club's got their own Facebook group as well, so you can follow some of the local groups if anyone's listening outside of Chester. But yeah, just kind of follow that and start to pick up some of the stuff that they talk about. They're really interactive sites. We often post maybe one of the questions that's been to kind of encourage that. And also the thing about Andy's Man Club, while we don't have a site in Chester, we do have an online group which anybody can access. So every Monday from 7 till 9, all you need to do is email info@andysmanclub.co.uk, and you can join that online community wherever you are from. We get people from America, from Romania, Russia, Bulgaria, Canada, across the world. People have joined this online group, which has actually been one of the real benefits that we found going through COVID, is because we had to provide this online platform because we couldn't meet in person. Whereas all of our clubs are now face-to-face, we've kept the online platform, which is hugely beneficial for us.
Oh, wow. That's brilliant. So anyone listening who isn't in one of the areas already covered, if they perhaps email info@andysmanclub.co.uk, they can find out about joining. Wonderful.
Absolutely.
Okay. Paul, is there anything you wanted to add?
I just think that what you're doing is really, really something quite special, and obviously the benefits that it brings to people. I've had anxiety issues myself in the last few years, and I know from the counselling sessions I had that actually, yeah, it's the most important thing is to talk to somebody, and so what you're doing is just so important. It really is. I can't stress enough the sort of thing, the sort of services that you're providing. Really, 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 obviously, very, very, very beneficial. What would you say to anybody who is perhaps struggling a bit and perhaps doesn't quite know which way to turn in terms of seeking help? What advice could you give people?
Yeah, look, there's a couple of things. The first thing is it's really kind for you to kind of give those compliments. Just like a normal guy, I find compliments really difficult to take. To me, it's a real privilege to be involved with Andy's Man Club, to give my time, to give back to the group that helped me so much. Is an honor and a privilege. And any guy that walks through that door, I have so much respect. It shows. There's a huge amount of courage, and they're all inspiration. I get inspired every week by attending that. One of the things that I'd probably say is, if you're in that situation and you're struggling to make that first step, I've been there. I know exactly how you feel. I know exactly, as does everyone else that's walked through the door at Andy's Man Club. There's a couple of things. One, you will meet guys that you will relate to, and you will feel part of a community, and that is an amazing feeling. That sense of belonging is so important. But the second thing is, what have you got to lose? If it doesn't work for you, you've wasted one evening on a Monday night. If it works for you, just think how your life could change over the next month, over the next 3 months, 6 months, a year, 3.5 years, like it has been for me. Make that first step. You will not regret it. Even if it doesn't work for you, you will not regret it.
Wow, that's incredible. Thank you so much, Dan, for that. That's really, really insightful. And, I just would like to say, if anybody out there is listening and is thinking, I need to go and talk to somebody, I hope that they will take those steps and actually work, whether it's through online with Andy's Man Club or whether it's with the Samaritans or any of the other organisations out there. As you've said, it is so important. I can't stress enough how important it is to actually make that first step. That's the hard bit. So yeah, thank you so much for talking to us.
It's my pleasure. Thanks for having us on, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Dan. Thank you. Okay, so that just about wraps up our Men's Health Week special here on Circle 8 Radio. If you've been affected by any of the issues discussed, then please bear in mind that there are means of support such as the Samaritans, which you can call any hour of the day free on 116123. That's 116123. Or you can email jo@samaritans.org. If you'd like to find out more about Andy's Man Club, you can go to the website andysmanclub.co.uk or email info@andysmanclub.co.uk. You may want to find out about the online group, which is open to join wherever you are in the world. Equally, there's also the Dragon Chat initiative attached to Wrexham Football Club, if you're in that area. We will be sharing various other relevant links in the lead up to Men's Health Week. You might also want to have a look at the menshealthforum.org.uk website to find out more about this special week of events and the different activities each day. Thank you so much to our special guests, Gareth Howatson and Dan Rowe, for sharing their stories and words of wisdom with us. Thanks to my co-host Paul Crofts for joining me for this very special episode, which we feel is incredibly important. And thanks also to Dr. Stephen Kenyon Owen for the music, which brings the podcast to life. Okay, take care, stay safe, thanks for listening, and we'll see you soon.